Kim and Tim here with an overview of our couple of days in Jerome and Sedona, including Oak Creek Canyon. To kick off the celebration of our 10th anniversary, we of course went to a tasting room, Chateau Tumbleweed, and what a tasting room it is. Actually, the wines are pretty good. Most of them are from Wilcox down in southern Arizona. We really had a good time. Next, we headed up the hill to the old abandoned copper and silver mining town of Jerome, Arizona, elevation 5,300. Our first stop in Jerome was the Liberty Theater, which was really cool because it really still is a theater, but is the most amazing t-shirt shop you will ever see. Really, really cool stuff. We caught up with these two just as we got into town. Looks like they'd been there for a while and they'd gotten themselves into some trouble. A lot of interesting characters show up at Jerome, and the guy that owned this motorcycle, I asked him if I could take a picture of it, and he said, why not? Everybody else has. Also notice he's got the cool F-bomb shirt. More than enough shopping to go around. Next door to this place is a kaleidoscope shop with hundreds of kaleidoscopes. Kim had a few postcards to get off, so we found Jerome's 1930s vintage post office. Pretty cool place, and very true to its original interior decorations. Walking around Jerome is pretty interesting with lots of unique art and old and dilapidated buildings, and yes, quite a few places to grab a drink. For dinner that evening, we headed to the village of Oak Creek to have some Italian fare. Tiramisu was wonderful. It was a nice little getaway. Next day, we were finally greeted with sunny skies, and we headed up the freshly reopened Oak Creek Canyon Road. It had been closed due to flooding. We found some really cool stuff along the way, including what we were looking for, Native American trinkets and jewelry and all kinds of stuff at a roadside stop. Continuing up the Flagstaff, really cool views of the mountains as you go up that road. Highway 89A, and the mountains just seem so large when they finally appear in the distance. So much snow. On our way back down the canyon, we stopped at Slide Rock. This is the Pendley homestead from 1927. Slide Rock is a very popular place for playing in the river, playing in the creek, when it's not a river. The way the rocks work and the way the stream works, you can slide down the stream basically, just like you would a slide in your local public park, except you're in the creek on the rocks. It works really, really cool. As you can see, while we were there, no one's sliding on the rocks because the creek is actually in a flooded condition, and the water is really, really cold as well at this point. The hike down there is really cool, though. There's some really cool different types of native pines and junipers and cedars. Really, there's probably about a 3/8 of a mile loop trail that you can take around, and you actually end up in some orchards that were there from the original homestead. While we got to see some cool waterfalls, and there was a few people there, if you come during the tourist season, be prepared to come early because this is one of the most popular attractions in the Sedona area, and the lines to go down the Slide Rock are extremely long. Back in Sedona, we parked the car and headed for the shopping. Yeah, I need to work on my chimes. Back at camp, we got to celebrate another successful day of tourism. And of course, St. Patrick's Day. Upon arriving at Red Rock State Park, one can't help but notice the large house in the distance. is the House of Apache Fire. Built in the 1940s by the CEO of Trans World Airlines and his wife. They shared the home until their divorce. She lived in the home until 1970. Then through a series of property transfers, it ended up as part of the state park. Pressing on down the trail, we came across that cool beetle. Apparently they stink really bad if you agitate them. Javelina are very common in these hills, and while we didn't see any, we did see where they had been munching on the prickly pear cactus. They love prickly pear cactus and they eat it, thorns and all. Around every corner we found a new cool wash, and fortunately, because of the recent rains, there was still a lot of water, and little cisterns where water had pooled. It was really cool. Of course, it's springtime. The plants that we saw were really, really amazing. Of course, we don't know what half of them are, maybe even 3/4 of them. These we called the little ghost flowers. They were really cool, the little Casper the ghost. Similar to the alligator junipers, the Utah junipers are really cool and draw a lot of attention because of their unique shaggy barks. Anyone who's visited the desert knows that the variety of shrubs and cactuses and leafy trees is just amazing compared to other regions. We saw things like catclaw acacia, creosote bush, crucifixion thorn, desert broom, hairy mountain mahogany, and Mormon tea. Amazing. Of course, the cottonwoods are absolutely huge and they're everywhere. Similar to my experiences in the Santa Fe area, the way the cottonwoods with their white bark capture the late afternoon light is really, really cool. Hiking these trails is relatively easy. Of course, this time it got a little more challenging because a lot of the trails were flooded. But the slopes are gentle, the trails are well marked and well maintained, and everything around you is just beautiful. Everywhere you turn, you're going to be greeted by imposing red rock landscapes with such names as Capitol Butte, Chimney Rock, Coffee Pot Rock, Chicken Point, Cathedral Rock, Bell Rock, and of course, you got to have a Courthouse Butte. But everywhere you look, you'll see something new, and all of these monoliths, have multiple perspectives dependent on the direction you're looking at them from. As I had mentioned, due to the high water levels on Oak Creek, a lot of the river bottom trails were closed for hiking, which was unfortunate because there's a couple of trails that we really wanted to do. But the cottonwoods are getting water, and they've got actually a lot of maintenance to do prior to opening these trails back up again. Many would make the mistake that the Sedona area is within a national park. It's not. And there are, unfortunately, a number of examples of just because you could build it doesn't mean you should build it. Most of the residences, though, blend harmoniously into the landscapes. Not this one. So the Page Springs area, when it's not flooded, is also a pretty significant viticulture area in central Arizona. And the Dancing Apache Winery is right across this raging river from our campsite. We spent an afternoon over there enjoying the libations. Right above our campsite was a fabulous little restaurant called Up the Creek that we actually dined at twice. Really good meals and really good service both times. Would highly recommend.
So this trip was challenges that we weren't anticipating, but I wouldn't trade for anything. The convenience and of having our own space and the comfort of having our own space and everything with us wherever we went. I wouldn't trade it. I have mixed feelings about Sedona. I think that the the country, the rocks, the mountains is absolutely spectacular. There are so much people, so many people, so much tourism, so much retail. You could spend days shopping, and I'm not sure that's how I want to spend a vacation.
Due to the terrible conditions of I-40 and I-17, and the fact that we wanted to see a little different scenery going home, we went down to Phoenix and took 10 across to California, going out across the desert, Palo Verde, etc. I don't know what you do for a living, but I guarantee it's probably not as fun as what this guy's doing for a living. Going from tower to tower via helicopter seems like a cool way to spend the afternoon. We spent the night just outside of Palm Springs at 1,000 Trails Campground. The guy was really nice and let us into overflow camping late. And of course, we brought rain to Palm Springs. All the rain led to a delightful time going over the Cajon Pass with quite a bit of hail right before we got into this rainy stretch. Then, of course, out on the Mojave, we got into 40-mile-an-hour crosswinds. Lots of fun. Arriving home, we looked to see what was going on where we had left, and the impending and in progress flood was worse than the flood that we had experienced while we were there. We were glad we left. Well, as always, it's good to be home. We're enjoying the sunshine that we finally got. Any last minute thoughts about Sedona?
Well, don't go during spring break.
Okay, that's a good one. Don't go during spring break. Very busy in spring break. It's close enough to Phoenix that it's easy for people from ASU to get to Sedona for spring break. So don't go during spring break. Next week, though, we've got another adventure planned as we're headed to Table Mountain. We got a little bit of a preview of this coming across the Tehachapi. The wildflowers are just dying to go crazy. And so we got good weather. Next week we're going up to Orville to spend a couple days on Table Mountain checking out the waterfalls and the wildflowers. We look forward to seeing you then. Take care.